What's going on, people? I got a rant for you guys today. This video goes out to developers, particularly those developers who like to whine and complain about the used games, or whine and complain about how they didn't make as much money or didn't get enough sales as they would have liked to make a certain profit off of that game. So I mean, now a lot of these companies, they don't necessarily do it, you know, they don't necessarily come out and say these things, you know, blatantly, but we know they do it, and we know exactly which ones I'm going to be talking about. But developers' used games are not the problem. The problem is you guys. Guys, over 150 notable gaming studios have closed this generation. And not a single one of them closed down because of used games, because of second-hand games. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an open-minded person, so I always see both sides to an argument. You see what I mean? Always see it. I understand it sucks that you can have all these copies, you know, circulating, you know, among potential consumers, and that's really cutting into how much money you could be making. But here's the thing, that comes with the territory. That comes with being a producer of whatever. If you're making a product, if you have a product on the market, expect to have used sales. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if you're making refrigerators, it doesn't matter if you're making lamps, okay? It doesn't matter if you're making shoes, it does not matter if you're making microwaves, toasters, whatever appliance you want to say, TVs. Every single damn market, every single damn product gets borrowed or gets resold to another consumer. Deal with it. And here's the thing, you guys have been dealing with this for 30 years now, right? You should be used to used games. You see what I'm saying? Why are you choosing now of all times to complain about it? And I forgot who I was watching. Jim Sterling. I was watching one of his videos, and he was absolutely right. Every gen, developers like to blame, you know, a new thing with the reason why, you know, they're not making as much money as they could be, or as the reason why, you know, they failed, you know, and things of that nature. You know, it's one gen, you know, it's piracy. Another gen, you know, it's this. Another gen, it's that. This gen, it's used games, right? But what industry, what market out there doesn't have used copies? Blu-rays, you know, the movie industry, used. What difference does it make? Now, here's the problem. Here's the reason why 150 of you guys closed down this gen, because there's two reasons why. One, you spend half of your game's budget on making sure we can see the nose hairs and a character model. That's why. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate you know, attention to detail. I appreciate that. You know, I'll be like, oh, you know, that's cool. You know, I can see the pores on the guy's skin and everything. But at the end of the day, am I gonna cry if I can't see those things? No. At the end of the day, are those things requirements? No, they're not. I appreciate great graphics, trust me. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I don't give a single fuck about graphics, because everybody gives a fuck about graphics, just to a different extent. So I mean, if I didn't care about graphics, I wouldn't have bought a PC. So I care about graphics, but they are still not the end-all be-all, and you don't need to spend half your goddamn game budget on, like I said, looking at the pores on a character's skin. LA Noire, right? You know, they got these real actors to come in and have this advanced, you know, facial, what's the word I'm looking for? Facial tracking, you know, whatever. You know, animation going on. All that's cool, right? It looked really cool in the game. But would it have been the same good game without that? Yes, it would have. And guess what, Rockstar? You would have made a lot more money if you didn't spend time, investing in that thing that nobody asked for. You see what I'm saying? That nobody asked for. You guys are losing money. You guys are making smaller profit margins, and some of you guys are closing down not because of used games, but because your focus is not where it matters most. If you focus on gameplay, content, replay value, guess what? Gamers are going to be less inclined to sell their copies. You see what I mean? If you focus on gameplay, content, and replay value, they're not going to sell that game. They're not. But if you make this single player game, $2 billion graphics, right? No replay value, right? Mediocre to alright, gameplay. Guess what? That's going to be sold. And half of your profits, you could have made 100% more profits if you focus less on graphics and more on what would get gamers to keep their game. Second reason why a lot of these studios have closed down, this is rocket science, I'm sure a lot of you guys knew I was getting to this, and the reason why you guys are losing so much money is because your games suck ass. Okay, your games suck ass. Who was it? Was it Factor 5? Factor 5? The people who did Haze? No, I'm not sure it was them. Was it Haze or Lair? Both of those games, right? Whatever companies did, did those games, closed down because of those games, because they sucked ass. It wasn't because of used games, it was because they sucked. Why did Zipper Interactive close down? Because SOCOM 4 sucked compared to previous SOCOM standards. That's why. It wasn't because there's too many used games in SOCOM, going around. It's because SOCOM 4 sucked compared to SOCOM standards. That's why. That's why they closed down. That is why. It's not because of used copies. That's not why. The reason why these studios are closing down, the reason why you devs, the reason why you guys are closing down is because you're focusing too much on one of the most minuscule elements of a game, that being, graphics. And again, I'm not saying graphics don't matter, but in comparison, this is me. Well, I mean, for gameplay, this should be for everybody. But outside of gameplay, soundtrack, content, replay value, I will always consider those four things right there more important than graphics. Always. Because I'd rather play a game with shitty graphics that plays like fucking butter smooth amazingly than I would a game that looks ball-bustingly good and plays like shit. You see what I'm saying? I'll take that shitty looking game any day over this beautiful looking game that plays like shit. Any day. You guys need to stop blaming your failures on all these other things that have nothing to do with it and realize that it is you guys and it's what you guys are doing. It's what you guys are doing. You're spending your budgets in areas you don't need to spend them in. And it's that simple. It is not rocket science. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm trying to drive the point home because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people on this video, defending these developers, defending this, potential, used game fees, things of that nature, whatever. Because I already know. That's why I'm reiterating, because I'm trying to drive the point home in this one video. I'm trying to drive it home. It's not because of used games. Do you see any other industry, right, complaining about, oh, too many use this, too many use that? Do you see like clothing manufacturers? Oh, there's too many used ties going around. No, you see what I'm saying? No, absolutely retarded. And I hate to use this word because I hate it when other people use it because it's not an argument, but it's fucking damage control. It is damage control. You are damage controlling the fact that you focus too much on graphics, or you are damage controlling the fact that your game sucked ass and that is why it did not sell. Or sometimes it's a mixture of the two, right? Because you spend 75% of the game's budget on the graphics, and then it sucks, and then you really don't make any profit. You see what I'm saying? But I rambled on long enough. You guys get the goddamn point. Developers, wake up, start focusing on what's most important. And that's what's going to get us to keep the game. Graphics are not going to make us keep a game. But if a game has amazing gameplay, replay value, content, you're not going to see that many used copies of that game. That motherfucking replay value, that content. That's what keeps us from selling your games. It's as simple as that. That's the answer to the test. Developers, use them. Give us amazing gameplay, give us content, and give us replay value. And all those three things, they pretty much, tie in with each other. Just give us those things and you'll be good. But I've rambled on long enough. Time to end this video. I'll see you guys later. Peace.